Hey Ravens fans, this is my report for week 5 coming up here. A lot has happened since the Ravens beat the Steelers that last Thursday night. So we get right to it. As we all know, Steve Smith had suffered a back injury. They didn't really say if it was a spinal or rib cage, but it sounds like it's more of a rib cage injury. Uh, they said one of those things that doesn't require surgery. It's just going to be how well can you tolerate, how well is your pain threshold? And seeing how this is the last season for Steve Smith, he's probably like, look, I'm going all out. This is it for me. He said it was the first time he's felt like his actual age when he got hit. So, as you all knew, he put Mike Mitchell on his lifetime hit list. Even though Mike Mitchell was the one who hit him, he was the one who said something to him after he got hit. I think it was actually Lawrence Timmons who hit him. But Mike Mitchell was the one who was barking at him pretty much after the hit. So he hit Mike Mitchell, who was a former teammate of his in Carolina, put him pretty much on notice. When they see him again I think in December, that he's going to have pretty much some words for him, or maybe more than that. So he's definitely going to be out this Sunday. Rashard Perriman is still out. So now it looks like the Ravens wide receiving core is going to consist of Chris Givens. Also, Campanero's out, so it's going to be Chris Givens, who they just got from the Rams. It's going to be Kamar Aiken, Marlon Brown. It looks like Jeremy Ross, who was a practice squad guy they got from Detroit earlier in the season. So now they promoted him today to the active roster, so I'm pretty sure he's going to get some snaps in. So this is going to be interesting to see what the Ravens look like this week without Steve Smith starting. And they did well. It seems like in the game against the Steelers, they were able to find, what was key, I thought, was the run game. The run game was very key for them for the simple fact that when Steve Smith went out, it forced the Ravens to have to, all right, now we have to find a run game because, we don't trust any of the receivers we have out here. So we got to get the run game going. And they were able to. It didn't look the typical zone run scheme that we saw last year, but they were able to, the offensive line was able to push the Pittsburgh Steelers around. And we saw Yanda and we saw, I think, Osemele really do a lot of work. And getting up the field and at least getting force set enough holes, to get some yardage. And he got 150 yards in that game, so I think that's key. From here on out, for the Ravens, I know we were trying to get back to where the rest of the league is and throwing the football 40, 50 times a game. But as we've seen, if you look at the stats, they said I think you can check ESPN or Pro Reference or FootballReference.com. You look at the scores. Not the scores. You look at the games, and anytime Flacco throws over 40 plus times, the Ravens are in single digits when it comes to win-losses. That's not good. And in single digits. But when it comes to less than 30 times a game, or at 30, the Ravens are in double digits. So when the Ravens run the ball, the Ravens win. Plain and simple. If the Ravens keep the ball on the ground and control the game that way, they typically win. That way Flacco can use the play-action pass, which he's so good at doing. He's good at being able to rolling out, which I thought we were going to see more of this year. I thought, we're going to have Flacco roll the ball a lot more. But as we saw for the first 2 games, they're just kind of airing the ball out. And when the run game was kind of sputtering along in those first 3 games, the Ravens were just pretty much, all right, we're going to give up on that and just start passing the ball. And while that was fine, they were scoring points. The defense wasn't good enough yet, basically to the point where they could go ahead and just throw the ball all game and have the defense get off the field. They were having trouble. The thing what they need to do now, especially the defense, until they get confident enough in themselves, is they have to run the ball at least 25, 30 times a game. I know you got Forsett back there, you got Taliaferro, you got Buck Allen, and got Kyle Juszczyk. I need to see more Kyle Juszczyk. I can't stress that enough. I did that before my preseason video that I would love to see more Kyle Juszczyk in this offense. I feel as though they're not utilizing him well for the simple fact that he's a pass catching fullback, and while he can block, he can go out and get the pass too, and he's going to be another weapon that they can have and use like a small tight end almost, especially with Pettit out there. And now another injury, Crockett Gilmore looks like he's going to be out this week as well, so we're going to see definitely more Max Williams and more Nick Boyle, and those guys have stepped up definitely. But having Kyle Juszczyk out there is definitely a weapon they need to use that, whether he can block or then go out into the screen and catch a ball and get a few yards. That's all you need to do. You don't need to even get 20, 30 yards. You just need to get 5 or 6. That's all you need him to do. Keep those third downs manageable at 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, so that if you can run it, you run it, or if you pass it, you pass it. That way, you're not. You can go deeper into the playbook and what kind of plays you want to run, or kind of throw the defense off a little bit. What we did see on the defensive side, though, last week was they did give up over 100 yards to Le'Veon Bell, but critical points in the game, the Ravens defense was able to hold the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. It was at 4th and 2, I think, right before overtime, where Michael Vick was trying to run. Like they said it was like a 2-point conversion type play they were used to usually run, and he ran out to the outside, but the Ravens sniffed it out, and they stopped him, and the Ravens were able to get down the field and kick the tying field goal. And then in overtime again, the Ravens were able to stop the Steelers on another 4th down play. I think it was 4th and 1, and were able to rush Michael Vick, and then Jimmy Smith was all over Antonio Brown, and they would keep him under 100 yards that game as well, and they were able to go ahead in the field, go ahead and kick that game-winning field goal. So I think the defense has a lot of confidence now coming off of that game, for the simple fact that it was tight, and any kind of first down in that game would have doomed the Ravens, especially that late in the game. Anything like that would have doomed them, and they were able to go out there and get the win. I did like what I saw from Flacco. For the simple fact, when Steve Smith was gone, a lot of us, especially Raiders fans, thought, "Oh, now it's over. Does Steve Smith's out? Who's he going to throw to?" And now he found Kamar Aiken. Kamar Aiken came up big. He came up real huge, especially in that fourth and that catch. I think it was 4th and 13 or something like that, and he was able to catch that ball and was able to get the first down. So that was key. And we're gonna want to see those guys step up now. Now Steve Smith is definitely gonna be out, and he's week to week based on how he feels and his pain threshold is. We're gonna have to see Kamar Aiken, Marlon Brown, and those guys just step up now. We're gonna have to see them step up. It sucks for Campanaro. He's so good in the open field when he gets the ball, but he's just so injury prone that now he's on injury reserve. It doesn't look like he's all season injury reserve, but it just sucks for him. It's just like every time it seems like he's on his way, he finds a way to get hurt, and it just sucks for him. You hope that hope for the best, but how long do you invest any more time into that? If you already got Bashar Perriman, who's injury prone, it seems like, with his knee. How much do you do with that with Campanaro? So we'll see what comes with that. Trade rumors that are appearing. As we all know, the Ravens receiving core, I said in a post earlier, I think on Facebook, was now he went from being not enough talent to just not having enough receivers now. With Steve Smith out, Bashar Perriman out, Campanaro out, they don't really have a lot of options now at wide receiver. They're going and scraping the bottom of the barrel now, trying to get guys just to put bodies on the field. The wide receiving core, they only have, I think, 4 starting guys right now, with Brown, Butler. I'm sorry, I don't think Butler made it up yet. It's Brown, Ross, Aiken. Am I missing anybody? It might be 4. It might be Butler too. But yeah, that receiving core does not strike the fear in anybody's hearts right now. So I would like to see, until those guys start getting confident. Flacco's going to have to throw the ball. He has no one else to throw to. But the trade rumors coming in are that the Bears are trying to seem like they're moving on from an era. It seems like they're trying to get rid of Jay Cutler. They've already gotten rid of Jared Allen, and another, I think, Lance Briggs. They got rid of him. They've gotten rid of some guys already, and it looks like Matt Forte may be on the move as well. As they're a part in their franchise where they're just trying to, all right, we need to start over. These guys have been here for a while, but we're not getting any better, and they're taking up a lot of cap money. So maybe we can go out and buy, get free agency and go out and sign some younger players and try to start over. So they're trying to get Jay Cutler out of there, trying to trade him. I think they've been trying to trade him for the last few years. He hasn't lived up to the deal that they gave him. Rumor is that they're trying to move Alshon Jeffrey as well. I don't know if the Ravens can really afford to, just for the simple fact that he would be like a 3-month rental. Right now, the cap money does not favor the Ravens. Obviously, they would have more cap money. I think it is supposed to increase next season. So maybe they would only sign him for the simple fact that, all right, we're gonna trade a pick, and Ozzie loves his draft picks. Is that he's like, we're only gonna trade a draft pick only if we know that we can get him signed for like a long-term deal and give him like 3 or 4 years. And because he's coming off his rookie deal, he hasn't had the great stats because he's been hurt or whatever. But because of his size and his speed, he's going to command some kind of money on the open market just because of his size and speed and the potential. and he's still young. I think he's still under 25, so he's still going to command some money in the open market. So the only reason the Ravens would sign him is if they know next season he'll stay here for a longer term deal. That's the only way the Ravens would get him. Another possible trade I heard was that they could either Golden Tate from the Detroit Lions. I probably heard that he's on the trading block as well. He's a good possession receiver. He's not a downfield threat type of guy, but he's like an Anquan Bolden type, where he'll catch the ball and then maybe some yards after the catch, get some Nike yak for you. Then they talked about Cordell Patterson from Minnesota. I'm really interested in that for the simple fact that Cordell Patterson, as we saw from the Vikings game, I think it was 2 years ago. And the Vikings, was it 2 years ago? It might have been last year. No, I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we played the Vikings in that Snow Bowl game where it went back and forth like the last 3 minutes of the game. And Cordell Patterson caught that screen pass, was able to shake through everybody and ran all with the end zone. I'm really interested in that pick for the simple fact they said the Vikings have not utilized him. They have Mike Wallace there, they have the guy Robinson, and they have Greg Jennings, who they're pretty much throwing the ball to. And they said Cordell Patterson, even though this is only his third year in the league, I think they've pretty much just not utilized him at all. I think they're just trying to move on from him for whatever reason I don't know. And he's a deep field threat. That guy is a burner. He's got super speed. He was on the other side of Sammy Watkins and Clemson, Cordell Patterson. So I think having him there in the trading block was definitely intrigued the Ravens. A simple fact that if the Vikings are just trying to get rid of him, they can get him on the cheap, and they could maybe get not have to cough him as much money next season, and then you would have Cordell Patterson, Brashard Perryman, and maybe another wide receiver you draft next year to go ahead and have a pretty decent young tandem for Flacco with some deep threats to go along with that. So that's interesting to see. We'll keep finding out what happens. I'll keep you guys posted and see what goes on. But I think Ollie's going to make another move at some point. I think he's looking at it like we can still do well this season. He hasn't mailed it in yet, and neither should we as Ravens fans. So I think he has some up his sleeve that he may work some things out to see if he can get another wide receiver in here, a young talent that he may have been looking at for a while that now is available on the market, in the trade market. For the Ravens-Browns game this week, it's gonna, it's always a tough game, I think, between the Ravens and the Browns. The Browns right now don't really have an identity for the simple fact that you don't know who their quarterback is. Josh McCown, through a late game, I think pick 6 last week, cost him the game. They're doing like the Texans are right now and putting in McCown and Manziel and McCown. They don't know who's starting for them each week. There's no continuity there. So that comes to help out. I think the Ravens defense to give them a little bit more confidence. Dwayne Bowe, the guy they signed in the offseason, who was a couple of years ago was a league leader in receiving yards for when he was playing with the Kansas City Chiefs, has pretty much disappeared for the last 2 years. We thought with a change of scenery that maybe it would be okay, but then maybe he's with the wrong team. Maybe he doesn't have a good quarterback to throw to him. I don't know. I haven't watched many Browns games, so I can't really tell you if he's just running bad routes or he's just not as good as we all thought he was, and they finally been exposed. The one guy we have to worry about on the Browns receiving squad is Travis Benjamin. He's given us fits for the last few years. He's a speed guy. If he gets open field, he can make guys miss and he can get downfield. He's not a big guy, but he can get downfield. And with Jimmy Smith's going to probably be on Dwayne Bowe, so that leaves Ladarius Webb. And I don't really trust Ladarius Webb on the outside guy. Maybe you move Ladarius into the slot, and you probably I think Will Davis from Miami, either let him or Kyle Arrington, or give some, or at least provide some safety help over the top against Travis Benjamin to keep that deep play away from it, because that will burn the Ravens. It has for the last few years, that deep ball. They had to keep the ball in front of them. If the Ravens keep the ball in front of them, they can do well. I think that Ravens defensive line with Jernigan, with Carl Davis and Upshaw and those guys, and even Zadarius Smith, who got 2 sacks last week, I think they can go ahead and put some pressure on whoever's out there for the Ravens. They're going to have to watch out for Duke Johnson, the other guy, Terrence West, who was a Towson grad. who's a Towson grad who led the I think it was a Division II football league and like rushing yards. Hasn't really been anything in NFL since he's been there. But Duke Johnson out of Miami is definitely a threat. He's a pass catching threat as well. So I have to watch out for that. But that's pretty much what they saw in Le'Veon Bell. So they're kind of prepared for that already, and they've had 10 days to rest, which is good. So all in all, but I think the game, for the Ravens, especially that game, we run the ball. The game for this game is run the ball. I think you're going to see Flacco definitely focus more on his tight ends in this game. You're going to see him get Aiken and them, I think, a little involved just for the simple fact he's like, okay, now Flacco has to prove himself for the simple fact that, we give so much credit to guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. For you look, when Jordy Nelson went down for Aaron Rodgers, you're like, oh, man, Aaron Rodgers is going to take a step back. Jordy Nelson's his best wide receiver. People forget Greg Jennings and James Jones were his number one receivers a long time ago. And then they left. And everybody like, oh, what's going to happen? And then Randall Cobb steps up and becomes the number one guy. Jordy Nelson was right behind him, too. He was like a number 3 guy when Greg Jennings and James Jones were out there. And Jordy Nelson was further down the depth chart. So Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't matter who he's out there. He's going to make guys. He's going to run around. He's going to scramble a little bit. He's going to find guys to get open. And he knows how to read defenses. He knows what kind of routes these guys need to run. That way they can just utilize whatever their tangibles are, their intangibles are, that they can go ahead like, okay, this guy's fast. I can get him, going to go route. Or this guy really good at possession, so I can do a quick comeback or something, get him the ball. Or this guy's real good at run up at the catch, so he can get the ball and run or whatever. So Aaron Rodgers is good at that. Peyton does the same thing. He had Marvin Harrison, but, after that he had Austin Collie and Reggie Wayne, who was an unknown before he got with Peyton. And then you got Tom Brady, who the only superstar wide receiver he's ever had is Randy Moss. But Tom Brady is still throwing up numbers. You look who he has out there right now. He doesn't have anybody. The only guy he really throws to like that is Rob Gronkowski. I think the third guy who leads the receiving yards on that team is Deion Lewis, who's the running back. That's the third leading receiver on the team. I think it's Rob, and then maybe Edelman, and then Deion Lewis. So, I think we're definitely going to see from this rest of the season if the Ravens, because Flacco's on a mini contract now, they're going to have to lower his cap number by a bit going into next season, just so they can have some money to play around with to try to get more talent. But the fact is that this is the time where Flacco has to prove, like, you won a Super Bowl, great. Ravens fans, we all know our quarterback's elite. We wouldn't have traded from anybody else unless we get Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, we're like, this is the point where Flacco has to start separating himself from that second-tier pack. There are a lot of analysts out there who still won't give Flacco the credit as an elite quarterback just because he needs to have elite receivers with him in order to look good. So Flacco has to go out there now with, bargain basement talent right now. As far as, Jeremy Ross, guys, people we've never even heard of. Marlon Brown, who's an undrafted wide receiver. Kamar Aiken, who's undrafted. Jeremy Ross, I'm not sure what school he came from. Jeremy Butler, who's a practice squad guy. So they're going to have to find out what, Nick Boyle, I think it was a 3rd round tight end, or actually later than that. So they're going to have to find out what Flacco has. Can he really lead this offense, without the talent? Not to say that they're going to just keep him without talent, but they have to see, like, when things get bad on offense and your guys go down, can you still function? Can you still win us games as the quarterback? Because that has to let everyone know where they're going to go for the future. If they're like, okay, look, if you can't do this, if stuff happens like this and things happen, guys get hurt. And if guys can get hurt and you can't carry us, we need to know this now for the simple fact that we need to be able to go ahead and say, like, look, if you're not going to be able to do it, we got to find somebody else that will. I'm not saying the Ravens might move on from Flacco, but at least entertain the option to go ahead and maybe draft a replacement. He has been in the league now for, I think, 9 years, so maybe drafting his replacement might happen. We'll see. So I'm like that for that respect. I think that's going to be key for Flacco. Is just that basically getting that. A lot of people say that offseason stuff and working with receivers. Now he doesn't. All the receivers he worked with are injured right now. if he did work with them, they're injured. So he's got like a whole new group of guys he's got to get ready for a game on Sunday. And they luckily, like I said, they've had 10 days to do it. But I'm sorry, Chris Givens was the other wide receiver. But now you got guys. You got Jeremy Butler, Jeremy Ross, and Chris Givens, who went on the roster just like a couple weeks ago, and now they're here. So we got to see. We're going to have. Well, we want to see more from Marlon Brown. We got to see more from Marlon Brown. He's got to step up. He's got too much speed. He's got enough speed. He's not a burner, but he's got the height. He's got to go up and get the ball. You got to see more from him. You just got to see these guys get open. They got to get more creative now with their offensive scheme. They can't do the typical vanilla stuff just for the simple fact that they're never going to keep 8 in the box just because our Ravens going to run the ball because we're not afraid of their receivers. You got to make them afraid of their receivers. You got to these guys are going to be a threat during this game, so we got to back off a little bit. That way you give Flacco a little bit more room to work. If they're going to stack the box with 8 guys, you gotta make them pay for it. You got to. So you got to find a way to get either the tight ends, you do a double tight end set, or something to get those guys involved and make Nick Boyle and Max Williams your targets. Just because there are matchup issues, or you find a way to get those receivers open, either screens or bubble screens or something. You got to Mark Trestman has to find a way to get that offense rolling. For the vanilla stuff's not going to work. He's got to try some things to get these guys moving. I think on the offensive side too, they got to worry about Danny Shelton, the number one pick, their number one draft pick. The Browns, they got to worry about him. He's going to probably provide some issues for Flacco in the middle of that pocket. We're going to see this offensive line protect a lot better. They got to keep Flacco upright. Also, for Flacco, no interceptions this game. He's thrown an interception now in the last 4 games. He's thrown an interception in every game so far, and he's got to keep the turnovers down. He turned over the ball, I think, 3 times against the Steelers by himself. He's got to keep that. He's got to keep the ball in possession. You're not going to kill yourself if you don't turn the ball. You're not going to kill yourself if you don't turn the ball over. If you turn the ball over, you're only shooting yourself in the foot. So he's got to find a way to keep the ball and stop making errant throws. I know he's trying to make the play. I know he's trying to make a big play. But if it's not there, just get it or give it away. You cannot give the other team an opportunity to score on you when it's not their turn to possess the ball. And they ain't provide momentum for them as well. So I think that's key. Is Flacco's guys cut the turnovers way down. But I think the Ravens win this game. I think they go in there and they handle business. I mean, I think this is their first convincing win of the season. I think they go in there and they put up 30 points. A lot of people may be saying that's kind of crazy just because they don't have any weapons. But I think this Ravens offense and the run game, I think with Forsett, Tyler Farrell, and Buck Allen, you're going to see a lot of those guys. And hopefully you see a lot of Kyle Juszczyk in that game as well. That Flacco's got to use the weapons that he has. He can't worry about the guys that aren't there. He's got to worry what he has to work with. And he got to find out what's their best, what do they bring to the table, and how can we get these guys involved so they can make plays. So I think the Ravens go ahead and win 13-15. That sound about right? Maybe 13-14. 30-14. Sorry, 30-14 Ravens. I think they go out there and they handle business. I think the defense does plays pretty well. I think the defense gets some turnovers, maybe 2. I think interception and a fumble. So I think they do pretty well this week. But we'll see come next week. Maybe they make a trade again for another wide receiver. Maybe they upgrade a little bit, but we'll see. They can't do too much right now to sort of some effect of the cap space and that dead money they have from the Haloti Ngata, Ray Rice, and Pitta deals. So we'll see what happens from there. But that's been my report. Hopefully I'll report to you guys. What's that, Monday? Maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Hopefully I'll report on you guys on the Ravens win, and they're 2-3 and getting the ball rolling. So anyway, hope for Ravens win. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.